There's a certain kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels loaded, like the air before a thunderstorm. That was the silence in the room the night it all began, and I should have known right then that something was wrong. "Logan, can you meet me for dinner tonight? I think we need to talk." That's what Ashley said. Not, "I miss you." Not, "Can you pick up milk?" Just, "talk." Those 4 syllables carried more doom than an eviction notice. I showed up. Shirt ironed. Hair combed. Hope stupidly intact. She had chosen this dim-lit Italian place where the waiter calls you "my friend" and pours too much wine. Romantic. Intimate. The perfect setting for an ambush. And there he was already seated across from her. Chase Donovan. The man I had heard about too many times for comfort. Her colleague. The one who understood her. The one who thought she was too good for spreadsheets and too wild for routine. "Logan, this is Chase," she said, like I was meeting her chiropractor. I shook his hand. Firm grip, smug smile. Shirt so tight it looked like it owed him money. Chase leaned in. "Let's make this simple," he said. "You've got 2 options. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. Now, I'm no action hero. I don't walk around with a brooding soundtrack. But something in me, maybe the man who built a life with this woman, maybe just plain instinct, flared." I stood up, cleared the table with one motion. Wine flew, dishes crashed. Chase caught a knuckle sandwich with a side of ceramic. Ashley screamed, "Logan, stop. You're embarrassing me." And there it was. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Let's talk about this." Just embarrassing. Like I was the one who dragged us into this twisted triangle. Security hauled me out. Shirt torn, hands bloodied, heart ripped open. Outside in the cold, I realized something. This wasn't the start of the affair. This was the curtain call. They brought me in for the final act of their love story so they could walk off hand in hand. But that night didn't break me. It woke me up. Because the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I got home that night with fists still clenched and heart pounding like a jackhammer on double overtime. The house was dark and quiet, too quiet. Like it knew it had been betrayed and didn't want to break the news itself. The first thing I noticed was the bed. Now, Ashley never made the bed like that. She was more of a toss the blanket and call it good kind of person. But this? This looked like it was made by someone trying to impress a hotel inspector. Corners tight. Pillows fluffed. Like someone had cleaned up the scene of a crime. I sat on the edge, chest still heaving, and took it all in. Her perfume lingered in the air, but not alone. There was something else. Musky. Masculine. Like aftershave and arrogance. It wasn't mine. That's when I started looking. Not because I was suspicious. No, that ship had already sailed and was halfway to Betrayal Island. I just needed confirmation. Something to match the gut punch I'd taken at dinner. First stop, her vanity. She always left her tablet unlocked. Trusted me too much, or maybe thought I was too dull to check. She was wrong on both counts. I opened the gallery. First image? Her. Mirror selfie. Barely dressed. Hotel background I didn't recognize. Date stamped last weekend, when she was supposedly in Sacramento at Lacey's baby shower. Next image? Chase. Shirtless. Brushing his teeth like this was a romantic comedy and not my life unraveling. There were videos. Messages. His deep voice whispering things like, "my little secret," and her giggling like she was 19 again, and I was some old homework assignment she forgot to turn in. Then came the kicker. A voice note. Her voice. "He still thinks we're going through a rough patch." Per baby. That did it. Not the visuals. Not the kissing. Not even the shirtless Chase. No, it was that line. Per baby. Said like I was some pitiful charity case she was babysitting until her real life arrived. And just like that, I wasn't heartbroken. I was wide awake. By the time morning rolled in, I was already 4 cups of coffee deep and knee-deep in clarity. Heartbreak? Nah. That got replaced by something sharper. Something more productive. I wasn't about to sit around listening to sad music and blaming myself. That's not how I'm wired. I pulled open the nightstand drawer, the one where we kept loose receipts, old birthday cards, and, what I was really looking for, a manila folder I'd been quietly building for months. Call it intuition. Call it survival instinct. I just knew. Inside? Screenshots. Emails. Hotel receipts from cities I never visited. Bank statements showing charges from stores Ashley hadn't stepped foot in since we were dating. Oh, and one delightful gem. A parking garage receipt from the night she claimed to be stuck late at work due to quarter-in chaos. I compared the timestamp with a photo on her Instagram story from that same night. Her and Chase, wine glasses clinking under string lights. Busted. My hands didn't shake. I wasn't breathing heavy. I just felt ready. I called a lawyer. Not some fresh out of law school idealist, either. No. I found someone with gray hair and zero sympathy. I wanted experience. Cold efficiency. A guy who knew how to turn betrayal into leverage. Logan, this is airtight, he said after 10 minutes of flipping through my file. You want the house? The car? Custody of the dog? I'd say your odds are fantastic. I nodded. I'm not here to win. I'm here to end this on my terms. Because let me tell you something. When a man reaches that place where pain stops stinging and starts sharpening, he doesn't want justice. He wants closure. Not the kind you cry through. The kind you walk through, head high, with receipts in hand, and not a tear in sight. Ashley didn't know it yet, but she had already lost. There's a peculiar kind of power that comes from silence. Not the kind where you're too hurt to speak, but the kind where you choose not to. That morning, I didn't yell. I didn't throw her things out the window or scratch her car. I simply waited. Ashley walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened, like she hadn't detonated our marriage over steak tartare and wine pairings the night before. Morning, she said, stretching, yawning, looking like betrayal hadn't touched her in years. Morning, I replied, casually flipping the page of the paper I wasn't actually reading. She blinked. Maybe she was expecting fireworks. A meltdown. Me begging for an explanation I didn't need anymore. But I gave her nothing. You okay? She asked, voice slower now. Testing the waters. I'm great, I said, standing up and grabbing my mug. Slept like a rock. That was the first lie I'd told in years. As she sipped her coffee and scrolled her phone, I watched her from the corner of my eye, her little glances up to see if I'd explode. But I didn't. Instead, I took a sip of my own coffee, walked into the garage, and texted my lawyer, let's move forward. Because here's the thing about Ashley, she was a planner. She liked control. She expected to lead the dance. And suddenly, she couldn't find the rhythm. She wasn't used to being the one reacting. The divorce papers were served 2 days later, at her office, right before lunch, in front of her assistant and a junior project manager she once bragged about mentoring. I wasn't there, but I imagined the scene anyway. Her perfect posture collapsing just a bit, her eyes narrowing, the color draining from her face as the words irreconcilable differences glared back at her in 12-point font. She called me at 1:03 p.m. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the texts. Ashley, Logan, seriously? Ashley, we can talk this out. Ashley, you're being impulsive. Ah, there it was. The trifecta. Denial, manipulation, then blame. Classic. That night, she walked in with a bag of takeout like we were still on season 2 of our sitcom marriage, trying to fix things over pad thai. I think we should talk, she said softly, setting the food on the counter. We are talking, I said, still scrolling through listings for new apartments. Well, I am. You're about to start. She stood there, eyes glassy, chewing the inside of her cheek like it owed her money. I didn't mean for things to get so messy. Messy? I looked up. You mean public? That's what you're really sorry about. She flinched. Look, Logan, she started, stepping closer. It was complicated. You stopped being present. I felt alone. I wasn't even sure if you still loved me. I nodded slowly. So your solution was Chase. That guy? The one who flexes harder than he thinks. I didn't plan it, she said, voice cracking. I folded my arms. Sure you did. You planned it right down to the venue where you let him challenge me like we were auditioning for a testosterone commercial. She took a step back, crossing her arms. You don't understand. No, you don't. I cut in, voice low. You wanted to blow up the marriage, Ashley. You just didn't want to light the match yourself. So you gave Chase the lighter and sat back to watch. She was quiet then. Not out of guilt. No, that would require remorse. She was calculating. I didn't think you'd be so cold, she said finally. You didn't think I'd act, I corrected. You thought I'd cry, beg, maybe move to the guest room for a month or 2. But here's the twist. I'm not the weak one in this story. You are. She looked away. The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. Then I dropped the final hammer. I'm keeping the house. Her head snapped back. Excuse me. You heard me. I have receipts. Photos. Messages. Voice notes. You know, that little thing called adultery? Judges still don't love it. Her lip twitched. You're really going to humiliate me in court? I smiled. No need. You already handled that part. She grabbed her keys, muttering something under her breath as she walked out, probably to go cry on Chase's protein-packed shoulder. I didn't follow. I didn't even move. Instead, I opened a new folder on my laptop, labeled it Reconstruction, because this wasn't revenge. This was rebirth. You'd think serving divorce papers and delivering a monologue worthy of a courtroom drama would be the end of it. But Ashley wasn't built for endings. She was built for loopholes. And she was about to turn our divorce into a chess match. The next morning, I got a text from my bank. A withdrawal of $4,000 has been made from your joint account. I smiled. Not because I liked watching my money vanish, but because it confirmed something important. She was panicking. I called my lawyer. She's already grabbing assets, I said. He didn't sound surprised. That's fine. We were expecting that. It'll reflect poorly on her. Just don't engage. That last part, the don't engage advice, easier said than done. Because less than 24 hours later, my inbox dinged with an email from Human Resources. Subject line, formal complaint filed. Ashley had accused me of creating a hostile environment during the divorce. She was trying to get me suspended from a job I'd had for over a decade, at a company where I helped train her when she first got hired. It wasn't enough to humiliate me. Now she wanted to erase me. But here's the funny thing about hostile environments. You need proof. And Ashley? Well, she never could resist a dramatic retelling. Turns out, in her complaint, she mentioned several public confrontations that never actually happened. One of them supposedly occurred in the office break room on a day I was at a tech conference in Phoenix, 2 states away. Another? The night she claimed I yelled at her in the parking garage while I was logged into a Zoom call with my boss and 3 other coworkers. Timestamped. HR called it off after 2 days. My lawyer called it desperation. I called it the unraveling. Still, I had to give her credit. Ashley knew how to weaponize perception. She couldn't destroy me with facts, so she tried feelings. Sympathy, spin, and somewhere in her mind, she must have believed the narrative would shift. She's the woman scorned. I'm the man who snapped. Never mind that she'd been choreographing this for months. Public opinion has no fact checker. But here's where it gets interesting. A week after the HR stunt fizzled, I got a visit. Not from a lawyer. Not from Chase. No, from her father. James walked into my garage unannounced, arms crossed, the same way he did when I asked to marry his daughter 12 years ago. Logan, he said, we need to talk. I didn't roll out a welcome mat. Just gestured toward a folding chair by the toolbox. Saturday, I know things are messy. You could say that, I replied, tossing a wrench into the drawer with a little more force than necessary. He sighed. Look, Ashley's always been spirited. I raised an eyebrow. That's one word for it. But I also know, he continued, that she makes rash decisions. And sometimes, she rewrites the story to make herself feel better. There was silence for a moment. Then he added, she told the family you hit her. That stopped me cold. What? Last week, he said, not meeting my eyes. Said you got physical after dinner. That you snapped. My hands dropped to my sides. She what? He finally looked at me. I didn't believe it. I know you, Logan. And I know how calm you've always been with her. But I had to come see for myself. I shook my head slowly, laughing bitterly. So that's the move now? Fabricated assault. The old nuclear option. James exhaled deeply. I'm not here to fight. I wanted to see if any part of it was true. I didn't offer him a drink. I didn't offer forgiveness either. But I showed him the folder. I showed him the photos, the text messages, the receipts. Her little vacation with Chase on the same weekend, she told the family she was visiting her cousin in hospice. The voice notes. The one where she said, don't worry, Chase. He's too weak to leave me. He'll just simmer like always. James read every word. Then he put the folder down like it burned. She was always good at hiding, he said quietly. She learned it from her mother. Then he left. And I stood there, surrounded by tools and sawdust, with a strange calmness washing over me. Not because I had won, but because the truth had started speaking for itself. You can tell a lot about a person by how they behave once the audience is gone. Ashley had been performing since the night she brought Chase to dinner like a prize pig at the county fair. The show continued through the HR complaint, the family fibs, the crocodile tears, but lately, her act was unraveling faster than a cheap scarf in a hurricane. 3 days after her dad stopped by, I came home to find her waiting on the front steps. No makeup, no smug grin, just her, In that old hoodie she used to steal from me when we were still pretending we were in love. Logan, can we talk? I didn't answer. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. She followed. I know you don't owe me anything, she said, standing in the kitchen like it wasn't already enemy territory. But I can't take back what I did. I can only tell you why. I poured myself a glass of water. Let her talk. I felt like I disappeared in our marriage, she said. Like I became some ghost of myself. And when Chase came along, he made me feel seen again. I turned to her. So your solution was to make me disappear? She blinked. Didn't answer. I loved you, I said quietly. Every time you doubted yourself. Every time you got passed over at work. Every time you failed and didn't know who you were anymore, I was still there, cheering for you. Tears welled in her eyes. Maybe real, maybe rehearsed. I know, she whispered. And I ruined it. I ruined us. I stayed silent. Because when you finally climb out of the wreckage, you don't jump back in just because the person who crashed the car starts crying. Then she said it. I want to fix this. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. No, Ashley, I said. You don't want to fix this. You want to rewind it. You want to go back to when the lie was comfortable. She took a step closer. I ended things with Chase. I raised my eyebrow. Before or after you saw the divorce papers? Her silence answered that for me. She wiped her eyes, voice trembling. Logan, I swear, if I could undo it all. You'd still cheat, I said. You'd just hide it better. And that's when I saw it, that flicker. That little flash of the real Ashley, the one behind the apologies. The frustration. The indignation. The ego bruised because I didn't crawl back. You were never perfect either, she snapped suddenly. You were boring, Logan. Predictable. You stopped being exciting. I smiled. You know what's exciting? A stable life. Trust. Loyalty. But sure, go chase sparkles while I rebuild the foundation. She looked stunned. Like I'd slapped her with logic. I walked past her and opened the door. Don't you want to at least try counseling? She said, voice cracking again. I'm counseling myself, I replied. And the first lesson is, don't let the arsonist back into the house she torched. She left, and I stood in the silence, feeling the weight lift. Not completely, but enough. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Finalize everything, I said. No mediation. No reconciliation. Just closure. He chuckled. Good. You're finally out of the fog. But fog has a funny way of lingering. Because that night, Chase showed up. He didn't knock. He stood at the edge of the driveway like a mannequin from the mall. Hands in his designer jeans. Wearing that smug, spray-tanned confidence like a badge of honor. You Logan? He asked. No, I said. I'm the ghost of his patience. He frowned. Ashley's been calling me nonstop. Says you're manipulating her. I laughed. Harder than I meant to. Buddy, if I could manipulate people, you'd be halfway to Canada by now. He stepped closer. Look, I didn't mean for things to go this far. Then you should have kept your hands out of my marriage, I said. Simple cause and effect. Chase squinted. You think this makes you the better man? No, I said, walking back to the porch. But I am the one who doesn't kiss another man's wife in a restaurant he didn't pay for. He turned red. You ever think, he muttered, that maybe she wanted more because you weren't giving enough? I tilted my head. You ever think maybe she wanted more because she didn't know what enough looked like? He didn't respond. Just walked back to his car, slamming the door a little too hard. And I watched him go, the sound of his engine fading behind me. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry. I felt done. The way you feel when you finally throw away a broken thing you tried too hard to fix. The silence after a storm isn't peace, it's planning. After Ashley and Chase both made their appearances, the house settled into something eerily still. No more door slamming, no more crocodile tears. Just quiet. But quiet doesn't mean nothing's happening. Quiet means the storm's regrouping. I spent the next few days finalizing paperwork, meeting with my lawyer, and transferring ownership of every sentimental thing I used to care about into a folder labeled irrelevant. The house? Mine. The retirement accounts? Split down the middle. The dog? She didn't even ask. And through it all, Ashley stayed quiet. No texts. No emails. Not even a late-night plea from the driveway. I should have known better. It started with a voicemail from my boss. Hey Logan, I just wanted to check in. Everything okay? We've been getting some strange messages. Thought it best to let you know. Strange messages? I checked my inbox. There it was. An anonymous email to my department's leadership. Subject line, concern regarding Logan's behavior. The body? A vague but ominous paragraph accusing me of having violent tendencies, controlling habits, and disturbing online searches. No specifics. No name. Just enough poison to make people nervous. And suddenly, I wasn't just the guy handling a messy divorce. I was a potential liability. I called HR before they could call me. "Let me guess," I said. "A concern's been raised?" They confirmed it. I explained everything. I even offered my browser history. They cleared me the next day. But the damage was done. The whispers had started. I was the guy with the crazy ex. Or worse, the crazy guy with the ex. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about the marriage anymore. Ashley wasn't fighting for love, or closure, or even money. She was fighting for the last word. She wanted to scorch the earth behind her, just in case I ever thought of rebuilding. So I fought back, not with rage, but with receipts. Remember that folder? I made a few copies. One went to my lawyer. One stayed locked in my desk. And one, I mailed to Chase's employer. Turns out, his company had a very firm stance on fraternization and conflict of interest, especially when it involved publicly humiliating a client's spouse at a business dinner hosted by that very same client. Chase was encouraged to resign 3 days later. Ashley must have found out, because that evening, I got a text. Just one word. "Really?" I didn't respond. I just stared at the message, marveling at the audacity. She started a war, and now she was upset I wasn't losing it gracefully. But the part that really caught me off guard came the next morning. A letter. In the mail. Handwritten. I opened it expecting venom. Instead, it read, "Logan, I don't even know who I am anymore. When we met, I felt safe for the first time. Like I could stop pretending. But the longer we were together, the more I started to feel invisible. You were so steady, so reliable. And somewhere along the way, I stopped appreciating it. Chase was a mistake. Not just morally, cosmically. I thought I was reclaiming something. I was really just burning down the last bridge I had to the person I used to be. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm just saying goodbye. This time for real. I hope you find someone who sees you the way I should have. Ashley." I read it twice. Then once more. Not for the content, just to feel something. But there was nothing left. No anger. No hope. Not even satisfaction. Just ash. She was right about one thing. Chase was a cosmic mistake. But the real betrayal wasn't who she cheated with. It was that she thought so little of us. And as for finding someone else? Maybe someday. But for now, I had something better than a rebound. I had myself back. After Ashley's letter, things went quiet again. But silence has a tone, and this one was final. Like the last note of a song before the needle lifts. She moved out a week later. No scene, no tears, no drawn-out goodbye. Just a few cardboard boxes and one awkward text. "The rest is yours." I didn't reply. What else was there to say? The house, once the battleground, felt different. Lighter. Like it had finally exhaled. I started making changes, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to. New paint. New couch. Even got rid of the dining table where she'd sat across from Chase like I was just an understudy in their off-Broadway betrayal. People underestimate the power of a good spring cleaning, especially when it includes emotional clutter. But the past has a long reach. And just when I thought the last ember had burned out, a flicker sparked. Chase's little brother, Ben, reached out. Odd, considering we'd spoken twice before. He invited me out for a beer. I agreed, mostly out of curiosity. We met at a dive bar that smelled like fried hope and cheap ambition. Ben looked nervous. After 2 sips of his drink, he blurted, "I just thought you should know. Chase is in the hospital." I blinked. "What happened?" "Someone broke in," Ben said. "Beat the hell out of him. Arms. Legs. Knees shattered. Cops think it was a targeted hit." I didn't say anything. Just took a long drink of my beer. Ben leaned in. "The cops think it might be you." I finally looked him in the eye. "Why would they think that?" "Because Ashley told them," he said. "She said you threatened him." I didn't flinch. "She also told HR I had violent tendencies." "Doesn't make it true." Ben sat back. "Do you have an alibi?" I smiled. "I was home, watching The Godfather." Seemed fitting. Ben paused. "You didn't do it, right?" "I don't need to break kneecaps to win," I said. That was never my style. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Good. Because whoever did it didn't just hurt him. They humiliated him." I didn't respond. Because truthfully, I didn't care. Let the universe keep its secrets. All I knew was, the man who tried to replace me could no longer stand tall. Poetic, really. After the Chase incident, I kept my head down. People started talking, neighbors, coworkers, old friends who once raised eyebrows at Ashley's work-late hours. But I said nothing. I didn't need to. She'd burned every bridge, and now she was trying to cross water with no boat. I focused on rebuilding, on waking up each day without flinching at the thought of her voice, on drinking coffee in peace, not suspicion, on rediscovering the little joys I'd shelved for marriage maintenance. Then one night, I got a call. It was Ashley. I let it ring 4 times, then picked up. "Logan," she said. Her voice sounded tired, like someone trying to walk uphill in the rain. "You shouldn't be calling me." "I know," she said. I heard about Chase. I swear I didn't send the cops after you." "I don't care." She hesitated. "You really didn't do it?" "No," I said, "but I didn't lose sleep over it, either." There was silence. Then she said, "I think I deserve it." "No," I replied. "You deserve to be forgotten. And that's exactly what I'm doing." I hung up. That was the last time I heard from her. Not long after, I saw a listing for her condo. Word on the grapevine was she'd left the state. Somewhere warmer. Somewhere less judgmental. Somewhere new to ruin. I smiled. Some people run from the truth. Others bury it. Me? I mounted mine on the wall like a trophy. A reminder that survival isn't just about making it through. It's about thriving after. 1 year later, I was standing on my back deck, watching the sun dip below the tree line, drink in hand. The sky was streaked with oranges and purples. It looked like peace. It felt like victory. Not the loud, dramatic kind with trumpets and ticker tape. The quiet kind. The earned kind. My buddy Kyle came over. He stood next to me, sipping his beer. "You ever think about her?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not really. Sometimes I think about the man I used to be when I was with her. He was always tired. Always trying. Always losing." Kyle nodded. "I like this version better." "Me too." And that was it. No violins. No final twist. Just a man who got cheated on, humiliated, gaslit, and still came out clean. Because while she broke vows and Chase broke boundaries, I never broke myself. And in the end, that's the best revenge of all.